What is the story this time? Is it institutions actually getting in? Because that was a big hype story like a year ago, and then it seemed to fizzle. Why do you think there's been a renewal in price, or is it just another up and down in crypto?
It's probably more the latter, but look, sentiment, text, the technicals look great. I mean, 80% drawdown in price happens, 3-4 times before? Every time that's happened, record highs. So as soon as you get the price going back up, animal instincts come back. But the difference between this increase in price versus the bubble in 17 is the infrastructure is much different. You have custodians now, you have trading software, you have compliance software. People were educated about the asset class. So this time is different.
That's interesting because it seems like part of the sell-off that we had to do with maybe perceptions of trust or mistrust with regards to just the entire space.
The ICOs in particular, right.
Exactly. So you think that has sort of been, if not resolved, at least sort of addressed to some degree?
Well, I think 2018 it was the unwind of the ICO market. So you had all of the demand for ICOs went away, and then the projects that raised all the Bitcoin were trying to stay in business and we're selling the Bitcoin. So yeah, I mean, look, the sentiment has been fantastic. We just launched a big advertising campaign actually just before the price started going up. So our campaign would have actually had an impact.
I think we can show it. We've got some pictures of the campaign. The campaign's all really based upon, Barry, trying to get people to start seeing digital gold as gold and getting gold bugs into digital gold. What do you think is the number one thing you need to break in terms of viewpoints?
So the ad is really designed to be provocative and start a conversation.
It's very entertaining,
yes,
by the way.
Yes.
I love trolling, and I'm a connoisseur of it. And anything that provokes gold bugs this way, like how many angry tweets did you get from like gold people?
So this has already gotten over 1 million views, and it's actually just starting today, appearing on TV. So the commercials just started being broadcast today. Look, I think what's important is to start the conversation and to highlight number one. There's a generational shift that's happening in the way that investors think about gold. So the younger generation, I grew up, I was born after the gold standard, didn't grow up during a period of war where you had to be able to store your money via something like gold. The younger generation, money is digital. Anybody who has a phone can now access this new asset class. And so you have what is approximate $68 trillion of wealth being handed down from boomers to X's and Y's and millennials over the next 25 years. That's not going to stay in gold. It's not going to all go into Bitcoin, but whatever is in gold is certainly going to diversify into something else.
So, as someone who actually does collect gold and has done since he was a kid, I can open up my safe and I can see my gold. The concern.
I don't know why that doesn't surprise me.
No,
it doesn't. There's a lot you're going to learn about me.
Don't tell everyone your address, or they come and knock.
Exactly. But I mean, there was sort of the physical nature of it, at least for people of a certain generation. Right. It does provide a little bit of comfort, whether it's a great store of value or not. That's definitely debatable.
Well, and look, I think where gold has history and cultural significance, it lacks in utility. It lacks in usefulness. Bitcoin as a financial rail, as a way to move money around the world, as a new financial system, has the potential to be incredibly valuable from an intrinsic perspective. Gold is, look, it's used in jewelry. Its use in electronics is down like 30% over the past 9 years. So while smartphone sales are going up and computers sales are going up, its use in its only real utility is actually going down. In fact, the more expensive gold gets, the less useful it is because they substitute it out for something else. So it's central banks buying. So basically, if you're buying gold, you're betting on the central banks, which is weird because gold bugs think that central bankers are idiots and don't know monetary fiscal policy. So there's a real disconnect between, okay, I'm going to bet on the bankers doing the right thing, yet they're the ones who are buying gold right now.
Let's go back to the change in infrastructure from 2017. There's more software, more custodial platforms so that institutional investors can actually get into the space. What do you see on the ground? Can you give any sort of numbers or sort of hard data to back this up, or beyond just the stories of they're finally into it?
So Grayscale Investments, which is the manager of the Bitcoin Trust, which trades publicly, symbol GBTC, in the first quarter of this year, over 70% of the money that came in was from institutional investors. And what's interesting is over 90% of it went into just our Bitcoin fund. We have 10 funds. So where the demand is coming from, it's institutions now, and it's right now just Bitcoin.
Had it been retail?
Well, we saw a broadening from individuals and family offices into the hedge funds in Q1.
And I want to get your take because when we introduced you, we said you've got more than 145 cryptos in whatever way that might be.
Companies,
Cryptos, which some of them are based on new protocols and potentially not Bitcoin being the be-all and end-all when it comes to cryptocurrencies. Where do you see the ecosystem when Bitcoin seems to be the out-and-out winner? Will it become one? Can there be a sea of many?
I think that there's going to be winners in particular use cases. So I think for gold, digital gold will be Bitcoin. I think privacy will be a very big use case. And so there's digital currencies we like Zcash and Horizon for privacy. There'll be smart contracts. We like something called Ethereum Classic for smart contracts. But I don't think that there's going to be hundreds of winners. There's going to be a handful of winners.
I want to go back to that. You said most of the money, a lot of the money is going to the Bitcoin fund. You said you have 10. I just looked them up. I've never heard of. Well, I mean, I've heard like the Stellar Lumens Trust, the XRP Trust. What's the Horizon Trust? Is that a coin?
That's a privacy coin.
Okay, so do you think that the proliferation of all these coin products, and you were talking about ICOs in 2017, helped contribute to the collapse of the bubble? It's like, here's just so much supply coming onto the market, and it just got swamped. And do you think that all your products contributed to that?
Well, look, I think there's thousands of cryptocurrencies out there, and our products, 9 of them are basically in the top 15, and then our 10th product is a large cap fund that allows you to invest across basically the top 5 cryptocurrencies. So look, I think the ICO boom it brought a lot of capital to the space, brought a lot of attention. I think that there was probably some negative consequences of it. But look, this is an incredibly exciting industry that's innovating and experimenting and trying different things. And ultimately what I think kind of came out of the ICO market, I think is more discipline and certainly more infrastructure.
And what so many people were also hanging their hat on and hoping for was an ETF with exposure or some sort of index they could get in on, but regulators have pushed this back. How much do you think that, yes, institutions are getting in, whether or not regulators give this the thumbs up eventually or not?
Well, Grayscale is actually the beneficiary with the only publicly quoted Bitcoin fund out there. It's been trading over $100 million a day for the past week, and its assets under management have grown to over $1.5 billion. So I do think that the regulators have publicly said eventually we do think that there will be approved ETFs, and we certainly expect that the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust will be the first one or one of the first ones that gets approved.